Welcome to X Lab. PerformX is the only event for anyone serious about the fast evolving worlds of fitness, well-being and human performance. We're on a mission to turn PerformX into a 365-day-a-year brand by bringing you the cutting-edge insight from the worlds of business, training and mindset from the very best minds in our industry. I'm your host, Giles Denning, and welcome to PerformX X Lab. Rory, welcome to PerformX X Lab. Great to have you here. So, Rory is the marketing director for Gymbox. Rory, you got one of those pretty enviable CVs. Do you want to talk us through sort of how you got to this point?
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I've been very lucky. I've always worked for brands that I have a passion for. So I started off agency side and I worked for Heineken, McDonald's, Gatorade, all kind of focused on sport. And then as kind of time progressed, I switched over to the brand side and worked for Everyman Cinema, and they were I really enjoyed the whole kind of working on the David and Goliath style piece, challenging the big multiplex, and I got a real feel for like disruptive marketing and how to do things differently, how to challenge the status quo, and that led me then into Paddy Power, which is kind of the real disruptor brand that a lot of people should know, and they're kind of famous for their marketing. And I was kind of part of the mischief team there, kind of like the mischief makers, and again, huge passion into kind of sport, and then that really kind of grounded me for my kind of marketing kind of culture and my mantra around, ask for forgiveness, not permission, and kind of from there followed into food and beverage for a couple of years, into hospitality, which again is an area that I love, and then kind of came back to Gymbox for my disruptive roots. So I'm back now, kind of causing mischief in the fitness industry.
Nice. And digging into, I read a bit about your time at Paddy Power. Am I right in saying you had a budget for getting fines for your campaign?
Yeah, you know what? It's a funny one. I mentioned this once in a conversation, and it keeps coming back up. It started off. It was in 2012 from memory. Right. We were planning a stunt with Nicholas Bettner at the Euro 2012 football event, and we gave him some Paddy Power Lucky Pants, and we knew we weren't an official sponsor, so the idea was, look, something bad's going to happen here, we're going to do it, we're probably going to get in trouble, so we built into the budget a fine. So we built into our plan, right, we'll do this activity, but then we weighed up the risk versus opportunity, and we felt like it's worth putting into the budget, and we got fined 100,000 euro at the time, and again, we budgeted for that. We kind of had a little look into what the fine may be, so we were kind of well aware that could happen. Funnily enough, then a couple of days later, the Croatia team were fined for racist chants, and they were fined 80,000 euros. So we were then able to PR that whole idea around, is racism, not as bad as kind of doing something kind of fun. So we were actually able to PR that as well for the fine. So it was a gift that kept on giving. But it was, it's kind of set me up in terms of being able to, I don't want to call it a fine budget, but I kind of have like a mischief pot in my budget.
Mischief pot, yeah.
A mischief pot where we try different things every year. So it happened throughout Paddy Power for a while. We did different things where we would go to a local town and we would kind of put vinyls up in places we maybe shouldn't have put it up on. Right, so that kind of became a bit of a smaller version of our kind of mischief budget. And I've really taken that through now to Gymbox, where we do things that are a little bit different. Right. When we go out into the streets, we do kind of graffiti, clean graffiti, or chalk graffiti, and sometimes different councils tend to not favour that so much. So I have a fine/mischief budget in my Gymbox budget.
Is there like a fine line you can walk to get a slap wrist with that sort of stuff, or is it?
Yeah, it
depends what you do.
It depends what you do a little bit. I think a lot of it is. There's a little bit of gift of the gab, you kind of play a little bit dumb on certain things. Look, sorry, we didn't know, it won't happen again. But when you constantly cross their path and like Rory and Gymbox are at it again, there's only so much the council or whoever it might be will forgive you. So you do have to toe that line pretty carefully.
And digging into that a bit, so if you're a gym owner and you're worried about upsetting people or offending people with your campaign, what's your thoughts on that?
Do you know what? It really depends. I think firstly you've got to know your brand, and you don't want to offend for the sake of offending. I always say, look, you've got to be disruptive but not offensive to a degree, but ultimately you are going to offend somebody. If you're trying to be disruptive, there'll be something interesting you'll do, whether that's the media you choose, and as I say, putting some chalk graffiti on a pavement, to a particular line which will grab people's attention on a billboard. And I think now social media has become this crazy cesspit of people responding to stuff. And my advice is, look, just trust your gut, know what your brand is, and if you feel comfortable with what you're doing, you can sleep at night. I think just go for it. I think go for it and be a little bit thick-skinned. I think you need to be prepared for a bit of controversy, a bit of backlash if you want to be a disruptive brand, because if you follow what everybody else is doing, you won't get noticed.
No. Digging back in, so if someone hasn't heard or seen Gymbox, we've obviously got, you're very London-centric, and we've got visitors from all around the country or world. What is Gymbox? How would you explain it to someone?
Wow, it's kind of like a melting pot of insanity, really. Gymbox. It's so look, Gymbox it was designed by a nightclub designer.
Right.
Same nightclub designer who did a Hacienda in Manchester back in the day. So the whole idea was just to kind of shake up the fitness industry. Founded in 2003, we're in our 20th year. It's the lighting, DJs. Our class is at a real USP. We do really unique and different classes, over 110 different classes per week in clubs. And we brought classes out onto the gym floor, basically. We don't have classes hidden in rooms, and essentially classes become the heroes. We've got Olympic-sized boxing rings with a DJ above it. We've got, rigs and classes going there. We've got rowing machines out on the gym floor, and there's classes happening there. So I think Gymbox is, we've got classes from holistic to sadistic and everything in between. So whatever you want to do, it's everything under one roof. We were almost, the original boutique. So everything from aerial and holistic to CrossFit. And the whole mantra is anything goes. When you come to Gymbox, however you want to train, if you want to train for a six-pack or to drink a six-pack that night, whether you want to train yoga or CrossFit or weights or boxing, Gymbox is a place where you can do that. And I think that the other thing about Gymbox is it was founded by Richard Hilton, who is an advertising man originally, and he was over in New York in the States, and he saw some concepts over there that he brought back to the UK. And I think our tone and our irreverent, cheeky tone of voice was born from him trying to be disruptive, and that kind of sits within our brand values. And I think that's what you see in our marketing. It's what you see when you come in the club. It's all about experiences, and our marketing is very, very different to any other gym out there.
And based on that, do you have like a primary target audience, or because I guess they're quite big sites, so you've got quite.
Yeah. Do you know what we don't have? I've worked for brands for years, and some people talk about our average customer or our target customer is male 18 to 24 or whatever it may be, and I think Gymbox is different. Gymbox is more about an attitude.
Right.
So we've got members from 18 to 75, and it doesn't age is just a number, and I think it's about that attitude and people who are looking for experiences, and I think that's why we've done so well in London. London is this place where people have come from all over the UK and the world to experience something different. And I think what Gymbox does is we bottle that up in our gym, and people know they're going to come in and have a really, really different experience. So I think our target customer isn't so much a particular person. It's an attitude, and it's a mindset. And I think if you want to come and be challenged, because actually underneath everything, we are a hardcore gym, as I say, whether it's yoga and aerial or whether it's strength training or combat, it's serious training, but it's done in a very fun and different way. So people who want to, again, we're the antidote to boring gyms. So people who want something a little bit different to their workouts, Gymbox is the place to be.
And based on that, I mean, it's surprising to think Gymbox is 20 years old, because it still seems so sort of fresh and current, doesn't it? It's like it's still very competitive. How do you stay on the pulse? Like, how do you sort of? Yeah,
it's a challenge. I think we I say kind of we were the original boutique. So before boutiques were on the scene, Gymbox was around and was the place to be. I think I really put it down to we never we never rest, we never stay the same. We're constantly evolving our product, constantly evolving our classes. So unlike, other gyms, we put in, new classes every month, every quarter. We drop in these new creative classes to keep people entertained, excited. What are Gymbox going to do next? What class are they going to put in? I think we also, as a brand, we don't, sit back and look at our campaign and enjoy it. We kind of go, what's the next thing we can do? How can we push the boundaries? And I think what we've been doing a lot recently, which is quite unique, is creating these kind of, what the hell moments in club, where we've had, a live band playing in the boxing ring. So we don't advertise it, we don't say anything about it. It's just people kind of come in and there's a band on and they're going like, what the hell? And it's that kind of just surprise and delight and just experiences. And with the world of social media, I think people are kind of, filming this, and we're looking to do kind of things that other gyms aren't doing. So we become that kind of like sticky gym that people want to kind of come into. So we kind of, my life would be a lot easier if we just did our campaign for the year and just put our feet up and launch classes a couple of times every few years, but we don't. We constantly push the boundaries across all of our products.
And the classes, some of them are absolutely brilliant. Can you talk us through some of your favourites or some of the most successful ones over the years?
There's been so many. I think so. We talked to our members quite a lot, and I remember we wanted to create a kind of an anger management type class one year, and we surveyed our members in terms of what was the number one frustration they were having in their life, and it was around the Brexit time. And I think number two was kind of commuting to work, but number one was Brexit. So essentially, we created a class called Brexit, and it was an anger management class, and we put Boris Johnson on a punch bag, we had Theresa May on a slam ball, and you could go around the class and take out your frustration in the whole situation. And we never chose sides, but it was kind of a really kind of simple class. It didn't cost a lot to put on, and actually the PR we got from that was phenomenal. We still get it today, where people are, it went global. It wasn't just in London and the UK. We had people from journalists coming from Australia, America, India, covering the story.
Wow.
And it was just a really simple idea, and it really took off. But again, built in a brand through it. It was a really tough bloody class. Like you were punching the hell out of a boxing bag. One I really enjoyed working on is we had a class called Bar Crawl. So again, I always talk about yin when other people yang, and so everybody was doing dry January, kind of anti-dry. So we did the anti-dry January class in January. So we partnered up with Tiny Rebel Beer, and we put on essentially a strongman class where you did a shot of beer, you could lift up a keg, you were squatting with a tray of kind of glasses, you don't drop them. So again, it was just something a little bit fun, a little bit different, but everybody, it was the only class guaranteed where you leave with a six-pack, and it was only everybody got a six-pack of beer at the end of it. So it's just those little things that are a bit different. So as I say, when people were all saying, dry January, and we're just like, sod that, come on in, get your beer, do a great workout at Gymbox, leave it a six-pack, job done. We've had a few. I could go on all day with some of the great classes we've done. My other favourite was we did a class called Sunday Roast, where we actually got a comedian in, and we partnered up with the Covent Garden Comedy Club.
Right.
And we had a comedian in who would literally roast you while you were being roasted in the class. So everybody wore silver suits, and it was a really high intent HIIT class. But what the difference was, you filled a survey in before you came to the class. So he had content. So he's walking around the class while you were doing maybe your sit-ups or press-ups, whatever it might be. He knew who you were, and he was actually verbally roasting you while you were actually kind of heating up in your suit. So again, it was a little bit fun, a little bit different, a real workout, but with that kind of a little bit of edge and something a bit different. I go back to that, really unique. Yeah. It's all about, again, going back to London and people wanting experiences and trying something different. That was one of my really favourite ones, and I got involved just the once because there's only so many times you can take potatoes being thrown at you as an Irish man as a gag. So we've had some really, really great classes over the years.
Yeah, and on that point, kind of, I guess, I'll start that question again. So as an independent gym or a small gym, you might say, but we can't afford PR. But I think Gymbox have famously, obviously you're big scale brand now, but you've famously always done things on a really small budget. How would you recommend a gym go about getting some PR?
Yeah, so look, some of the examples and a lot of the PR ideas people see and Gymbox being in the press quite a lot don't cost a lot of money. We don't have big budgets. We got to be clever, and a lot of it is just born on, again, talking to our members, talking to the different communities, finding a niche, finding something different that is true to the Gymbox brand. So if you are a gym owner out there, you think, what do I do as a business? What can I offer my community that nobody else can? And then actually it's just about I always talk about consistently being inconsistent. How do I kind of then surprise them, do something slightly different? And it doesn't need to be around classes. It could be an event that you put on and you invite people down and building relationships and getting to know your kind of press in the area, local press, and building a facility or a gym that people want to come to and be seen in. Because I think PR is press need content. They're dying for content, and again, it could be that you put on something really different. It could be nutrition. It could be something around the gym. And actually, is it I don't want to say a 7-day challenge in a typical way, but can you do something that's just a little bit different than what everybody else is doing? And I think actually if you can get that message out then to particular kind of journalists, they actually want to come in and experience that and write about your gym. So you don't need to throw a lot of money behind it. It's just having a little bit of that kind of creative thinking time and going out there and building those relationships with different press members.
Do you think you need a disruptive product in order to do disruptive PR?
It certainly helps. It helps that I've got so much content. So our creative team, our studio team, come up with so many great classes. It makes my job a little bit easier.
Yeah.
And again, we've built over the years. I think people are expecting us to do something different, and therefore there's a lot of pressure on what a Gymbox going to do next. But if you're a gym owner and that isn't your business, that isn't what you've done, again, I don't think you need your product to be necessarily disruptive. I look at some boutiques and they have one or two concepts and that's their business, and that's how they built their business. But actually, maybe you can be disruptive in how you use your media, how you get out there, how you develop your Instagram or your paid social. Maybe you be disruptive in terms of how you get out onto the streets. So, when we do flyering, for example, we don't just go out and hand flyers to people. We actually have a couple of street performers. We bring out our kind of portable music speaker, we create a bit of noise, we have some dancers doing some break dancing, and people are kind of, what's going on? And then we hit you with it. So you can be disruptive in your marketing without having a disruptive product. I think, again, it's just a mindset, and always ask yourself, if everybody else is doing this, how do I do it differently? And I think that is kind of my number one tip around getting your message out there. Just how do you do it differently?
Yeah, that's fascinating. And a lot of it is, I guess, how you get the 85% of people who don't want to come in and do exercise. You're kind of very good at that novelty factor that will get them in for that repeat visit sort of thing. Yeah,
we are. And that, look, absolutely that. The 15% of people in the UK go to the gym, and so your pool is small. But I think you've got to constantly be, thinking about being spontaneously number one when people are in your area. You're only going to travel so far. It's either near your home or near your work, right? Yeah. So make sure you're out there. I think we do talk a lot about all these different channels you've got now, paid media and Google and everything, but actually being out there in your local area is really, really key, really important.
Yeah, and building that relationship face to face.
Absolutely.
And do you try and be disruptive? I mean, you've sort of touched on it there, but do you try and be disruptive with every channel of marketing, every touch point?
Yeah. we do. And again, it makes my job a bit more difficult. I work very much closely with the commercial team, and we develop our sales promotions and our messages in tandem with marketing. Right. So every touch point has to feel different. So I mentioned flyering and how we go out there and do things differently with street performers. Similarly, where we talk to corporate. So my view is people, and somebody much smarter than me said this, but people don't read adverts. They read stuff, they read content, and sometimes it happens to be an ad.
Right.
So our view is when we're serving up, whether it's an SMS message or an email or paid social, it's got to feel interesting.
Yeah.
It's got to feel different. It has to be something that I want to watch, I want to consume. If I just hit you, and there's a lot of other gyms that do this, with a big message on social media, it just starts off with no joining fee, and you've lost me already.
Yeah, yeah.
What is your hook? How do you be clever with your copy? How do you pull me? Think about the mindset of that prospect, that consumer. What would interest me? And I don't think it's hitting people with a sales message straight away, right? So we're disruptive in both the type of media we use, and then even when we go out there with a sales message, we kind of wrap it up in its kind of brand and its tone, so it feels interesting to people.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, because at the end of the day, we are all human. And I think we spot these sales messages, and we get hit with so many every day. And I think my advice for any gym owner is there, just don't go back to just hit them with the offer straight away. How do you kind of maybe build a relationship with them first? And, again, great content, it's difficult, but film, some really good content. Maybe don't hit them with a message on social for a while, just keep hitting really good content and they'll come to you. But actually, if they engage with it, you can then follow up with a kind of a sales message, but again, wrap it up in something interesting.
Yeah, constantly thinking differently. And like looking at what others are doing and thinking, how can I make
how do I do it differently?
Opposite of that. Yeah.
You really need to.
And on that note, I think a lot of gyms I speak to they're constantly frustrated with the gym down the road, literally copying and getting inspiration from, basically all just looking within their own town for all their inspiration. Where do you tend to get your inspiration from? And is that, I guess, that it doesn't have to be in the fitness industry,
Yeah, look, I think 100%. I actually don't look at what other gyms do in that respect.
Yeah.
I'm aware of it, and I'm conscious of what other gyms are doing, but I actually, when it comes to inspiration, I look at the hospitality industry. I look at what brands that I think are smashing it are doing. So I look at when you go to a, just take a restaurant for example. Again, restaurants have had to create this world where they're offering experiences in the restaurant to make people come back, and I look at what can we learn from that. I go to Everyman Cinema where I used to work, and I think they're still smashing it, and how they do Q&As with directors or costume designers for a particular film. I look at how can we take some learning from that and bring it back into the gym. I look at brands like Secret Cinema and how they put on these amazing events. So again, it's taking those ideas from looking for inspiration for places that actually shouldn't really work in the fitness world or work in your gym. But actually, if my big challenge is I can't switch off. So when I'm at a gig or I'm at the cinema or I'm somewhere, I'm kind of going, well, how can I steal that idea and pitch that to my boss next week and say, we should do this at Gymbox? Because no idea is brand new. So we're all learning and we're taking ideas from each other. And actually, there's some really creative things going out in the hospitality world in particular that I think gym owners could take, adapt. And again, think about your product and your marketing. How can you take that and kind of just tweak it a little bit? And so I wouldn't be looking at the gym down the road. I think you just look for inspiration in other places. I go back to when we come with our creative classes. A lot of those ideas come from people who've gone on holiday and they've been to Greece, and there was a kind of smashing plates, which is a famous thing. So we did a class where you can come and smash plates, because the idea came from someone going on holiday, or when we did rave, we were one of their first gym to do a rave class. It came from someone just going to a club and having an amazing time and said, we should just do that in our gym. So ideas can come from anywhere.
No, that is fascinating. So you've got some history in the hospitality industry. As a brand, Gymbox's mission is to make working out as fun as going out. So what do you see as the key learnings that the fitness industry can take from the hospitality industry?
So look, I spent a number of years in entertainment in the cinema world, and then within kind of food and beverage, and they do things very differently in the fitness world. And I think my view is people, we're not a gym brand, we're a lifestyle brand, first of all, Gymbox. And I think you've got to take people out of that mindset with, well, they're in the gym or they're in the restaurant, or we're humans, and we don't break it up that way. So I think we as a brand always try and kind of entertain. So we look at the hospitality world, and as I said, when I go to places like Secret Cinema or I go to a festival, there's always a little kind of sprinkling of stardust, something that's happening, that's going on. And I'm always constantly saying to myself, right, how do I steal that idea, take it, kind of inject it into the Gymbox kind of world, into our four walls? And you're constantly learning from what other brands are doing. And I look at, when I was at Everyman Cinema, they completely went in a different direction to what all the cineplexes were doing. We put on Q&As with costume designers for Predator, because that's quite interesting. And how did you come up with the Predator design? Or we did retro film nights. We put bands on stage before the gig. We did all those interesting things. So I then look at going, what are other brands doing that are really, really different in their space? And how do you put that into the gym world? So I'm not sure many people will put a band into a boxing ring in a gym. But again, that's just born out of seeing what experiences are happening in the hospitality world, and how do we put that in? We have DJs in all of our clubs, but we're looking at how do we amplify that a little bit more and really do something different with our DJs. And again, so it feels like that nightclub environment, which again leans back to hospitality. We go to nightclubs and we see, there's disco balls and there's light shows. And again, we look at Gymbox and we think about, how do we inject some of those crazy things that people will go around and go, you won't believe what my gym's doing. They've got that sort of stuff. And so we do, certainly I do when I'm in, certain restaurants and I see huge blocks of ice. Could we do something in the club with that? Like how can we steal that idea and just kind of twist it for the gym world? Because you're always learning. You're always learning, and you're always having to, I just think, piecing together different ideas from the hospitality world and other industries. But I think hospitality is a great, they're smashing it right now.
Reminds me a lot of, in the fashion world, what they call the 5%. So it's like having that catwalk stuff that then gets people to actually just buy the plain normal stuff. But it's that's the, in a gym, it's like, oh, they've even got that, or that's the bit you talk about. You might not have even have used it, but they've got this crazy, thing going on over there. That
100%. And I think you've hit the nail on the head. And what that does is that creates word of mouth. Yeah. And I think word of mouth is probably our number one reason for joining the gym. So we ask our members, what did you join the gym? It's word of mouth. Ready. So as a gym owner, by putting in these little moments, whatever that might be, whether it's your DJing club or something different that no one else is doing, people that are coming to your gym then talk about it to their mates, to their family, to their friends, and then they want to come and check it out because their gym isn't doing it. I want to see what's going on there, so I'm going to come in. So I think you've got to be really mindful of how, again, sometimes we focus too much on acquisition and just, flyering and getting outside of our four walls to try and drive people in. But what you do in club is as important as what you do outside of club.
So Gymbox has clearly got a very clear understanding of your customer and what makes them tick. How do you formalise that if you're a gym owner? How do you kind of conduct that knowledge?
We talk to our members all the time. We talk to them on a couple of levels. On a macro level, every 2 or 3 years we send out a survey to check in on our brand health. We ask them their attitudes to exercising, how that's changing, are they enjoying our classes, our PT model, how long they're commuting to the gym. So we find out a good picture from our members in terms of where we're going. And by doing that every 2-3 years, we can see if the trend is going in the right direction, if it's going in the wrong direction. So it's a bit of a yardstick to see how we're doing as a business. And we take that down a level then every couple of months, probably every quarter, we'll send out a member satisfaction communication to our members, where again we talk through the whole journey from when they arrive in the club and how they're greeted at reception, to our PT product, our class product, our changing room facilities, and we get a little bit of an idea then on how we're doing. Right. And again, that's a little bit kind of top line granular in terms of our net promoter score, as we call it, and how are we doing, and are we all green faces, have we got red faces, whatever that might be. But actually, on the bit that I find the richest information, which anybody can do, and it's simple, is, well, we're in the social media world. Members contact me on LinkedIn with feedback. They message me, they message Mark, our CEO, and we have a one-to-one conversation with them on LinkedIn. Sometimes it's a little bit time-consuming, but I train in the gym 6 days a week. I'm a Gymbox member, first and foremost. I train when we do new classes. I'm in classes with our members. I'm working out with members. I get feedback on the smallest minute details on how our new classes are doing, how our clubs look. Do we need to be changing anything? So I think by talking one-on-one with members and being part of your product, and I don't disappear. I'm on the front line and I'm talking to members and sometimes dealing up to challenges where somebody may challenge a campaign we've done, or a particular class isn't as good as an old class, and I think it is important to hear your members out,
Yes.
and to talk to them regularly, because that's how you improve.
Yeah.
You don't always have to agree, which is kind of, always a difficult one, but I think you do need to constantly, be engaging and be constructive and getting constructive feedback, because I think that's how you evolve as a business and helps with retention and retaining kind of members on an ongoing basis.
And having that top line view, as you say, the bigger picture helps you understand whether that's a minor, a one-off case and that customer might not be right for the business anyway, or whether it's,
absolutely. And this is the point. I know people say the customer's always right.
Yeah.
My view sometimes the customer's always wrong, but you do have to listen, and you do have to be humble in your approach, and again, with the higher piece is we can see the trends. So while you can take one person's feedback, actually if the trend on our PT model or the trend on our classes is going in the right direction, we know we're doing something right, and then slight little tweaks that we might want to do for individual people.
Yeah, nice. You've had a lot of success in your career growing challenger brands. What do you think the secret is?
Oh, wow. That's the secret of a challenger brand. I've been lucky in that I've always had great people working with me. So I think that the first thing I've always said is hire the right people. It's not just, Rory, disruptive Gymbox guy. I've got some great people working within my team, some really good agencies, some freelance people. And I think CVs can be a strange piece because you look too much on, university degrees or marketing degrees. I hire interesting people. Our gym is about experiences. So I know the type of person I want. I want someone who's out visiting festivals and going to crazy places, because that's where the ideas come from. And I think a combination of hiring the right people and then developing a culture where you encourage kind of creativity and disruption, and don't reprimand people for trying something different that doesn't work. And again, if you want to push the boundaries and do something different, there'll be 9 times out of 10 it will fail. Like, I've literally had so many projects that are ideas and you go, didn't work. You've got to just keep testing and learning, because when you do get that, that's where you get real disruption. So I think creating and harnessing a culture where people can try something new, and if it doesn't work, you move on to the next thing. It's important.
And 2 things on that. Do you think it's, when you're hiring, are you looking for skills that sort of complement yours? You're not looking for someone the same as you, that sort of thing. So if someone's like building I think it's an interesting thing with those sorts of gym owners where you're going from being the sole person that does everything to trying to delegate out skills, and you end up employing quite junior people.
Yeah.
So it's that kind of, where do you bring in the complementary skills, or what do you outsource, that sort of thing when it comes to disruption?
Yeah, you know what? It's a really, really interesting one, because I'll give you the example that I could use for that at the moment is we've dipped our toe into TikTok.
Right.
Now, I'm a 40-year-old man. I don't understand the TikTok world, right? I know the Gymbox brand, I know disruption, I know what we should be doing in the space, but I don't understand TikTok. So I'm bringing in, Chanel, who's come in, knows that world.
Right.
She knows it really, really well. So I bring in that complementary skill that she knows it.
Yeah.
I help support her with the direction on where I think we should be as a disruptive brand.
Yeah.
And between us, we come up with a TikTok strategy.
Nice.
So I think my view would always be to hire people. Again, it's a bit of a weird one, they say, master of all trades, jack of none. Is that it? Jack of all trades, master of none. Whatever order it is. Yeah. Jack of all trades, master of none. I am, like jack of no trades. Like I literally just hire people who are really good at different areas, and I'm able to have that kind of helicopter view
Lead the way.
and lead the way.
Yeah.
And you just got to trust people to get on with it. They know that area, whether that's paid media or whether that's the PT side of the business or developing classes. That's their kind of bread and butter. They do it. Trust them to get on with it, and just direct them occasionally. I think that's where I think the success of Gymbox has come from.
Yeah, and that's really interesting what you say about they're living and breathing that lifestyle that you want. They're at the things where the ideas are going to come, because people can't just make it up or Google it. It's like they need to be. You
need to be there. You need to be living it. You need to be breathing it. And I think that's the success then of a disruptive brand, is to try and, as I say, get people who are out there, and then you just pull in the ideas, and then I know as the business owner or is kind of go, I think that will work. Yeah, let's give it a go. And if it doesn't work, you try again.
And if you were, I guess, an independent gym, small budget, would you then allocate some budget to testing and learning and trying new things?
Yeah, do you know what? That is the $1 million question, because as a brand owner, you know your tried and tested methods, or as a gym owner, and you know actually, if I go out and flyer, I can get 500 leaflets in people's hands, but maybe I don't have budget to do paid media, or I want to try it, or I want to try something different on the streets with the street performers, or I might try something. My view is always put a small percentage of your budget, whatever you feel you can afford, 5, 10, 15% into a test and learn pot.
Nice.
And every month, every quarter, as you're trying different things, just keep, don't, as easy as it is to stop doing that and put it into what you know will get you that return on investment, just keep trying it, because what will happen eventually is you'll come across something that works better than what you're doing now, and then actually you can flip your budget and keep testing and learning, trying different things. But what you'll do is you'll evolve your marketing, and it will help with your acquisition, it will help with your retention. So you've always got to be just putting a little percentage of your budget, whatever you feel you can afford, test and learn, test and learn, test and learn.
Nice. And can you give some good examples of the best disruptive campaigns you've done?
Oh, you know what, there's been so many over the years. At Gymbox, there's probably 2 that spring to mind that I'm quite proud of. And the first one was quite a recent one actually, where again, we've been looking at PPC and Google adverts and how we do that differently. Again, we talk about the brand and how we inject our tone into it. So what we did was some competitor bidding. So for people who are searching for Third Space or Virgin Gym, we were actually serving them an advert, which was done, we have this great copywriter who actually kind of made a little small dig at the particular gym, and then essentially we try and hijack people clicking that link and coming to Gymbox. And the Third Space one in particular got a lot of news on social, shall we say, where people were typing in Third Space, and we served up saying, why Third, be number 1 at Gymbox, basically. We won London Lifestyle Awards 3 years in a row, come to Gymbox. And you know what, it just kicked off on social. We had people from Third Space commenting on it, saying they didn't like it, which kind of fueled the fire. But look, my view on the whole piece is, we were putting a spotlight on the industry, giving all brands a bit of free PR, which I don't think can hurt. I think the brands that we handpicked, and that wasn't just gym, we did ClassPass, we did some other brands. It's a little bit of fun. It was actually more of a brand play than a acquisition play. And again, it cost us 0. A little bit of just an idea. Which again, the idea, I looked at the hospitality, I saw somebody else doing it, they didn't do it quite as well as we did. Took the idea, repackaged it in a Gymbox way, some really clever copy, and we got, probably 1 million views on social on the back of that. So that's one that springs to mind in the digital world, which again doesn't cost any money. The other one I'm really proud of is, COVID for all the gym industry was, a bit of a shit show. It was tricky. Can I say shit show?
Yeah.
All right, sorry, I'll go. So the other one I'm really proud of is after COVID, obviously it was a shit show for everybody in the gym industry, and we were closed for so long, and open and closing. And when we reopened, we decided to do, just again, really simple. We wanted something big to welcome people back to the gym. And we looked at the online fitness world and how everybody was working from home. How do we get people out of their living rooms and back into the gym after COVID? So, the poster boy of kind of COVID online working was Joe Wicks. So we created a line and billboarded all over London saying, "Thanks, Joe Wicks, but we're back and we'll take it from here." And again, we didn't ask Joe Wicks, we just did it.
Right.
So again, a bit of a, could have gotten a bit of trouble for that one. Fine pot. Yeah, we had the mischief fine pot ready to go. But again, it goes back to that mantra and ask for forgiveness, not permission. We said, let's just do it. And what's the worst that can happen? And again, it was the tone of the nation. Everybody wanted to get back into real life working. Even Joe Wicks was taking pictures of it and sharing it. He loved it so much. And again, that generated a lot of PR. Just Joe Wicks doing it to his millions of followers. And then as a thank you, we said to Joe, look, lifetime membership at Gymbox, if you want to come. Thank you for looking after everybody. So again, it's just a really small disruptive one, very simple line. You don't need to have a disruptive product to do that. That was just a great line, hit some billboards in London, pushed it out socially, digitally, and it just took off.
Nice.
Really good, really proud of that one, it was fun.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, I enjoyed that one. Particularly when Joe, we were waiting to see what he was going to do. I'm just going to get a message from his lawyer or something now. And the next thing, he actually used to work for Gymbox as a PT back in the day. So he was kind of, he knows the brand, and he was like, guys, that was brilliant. So, we messaged back and forth. It was fantastic.
And I think I saw, on that note of kind of having a sly dig at competitors, I think I saw years ago when you opened a site, you had some footprints going from another local gym saying like, not like non-boring gym this way or something like that.
Yeah, we've done a bit of that. I think, look, you've got to take that with a little bit of a grain of salt, because you don't want to create a kind of a competitive war. You know, we're all in the same industry, but I do think again, you talk about towing the line. I think there's a little bit of fun there. I'm not going to go and start, you know, billboarding outside someone else's gym, and I don't want to, you know, do that. But I think there's, you know, I take the kind of third space example there. I think there's a missed opportunity for the brand, because what they should have done is they should have come back at us with something, and we could have had a little bit of fun. You think about, you know, M&S and Aldi with the, you know, to look at other industries with Qbert the Caterpillar. Like that was, again, a trademark issue. They dealt with it, and they've got so much press and so much PR from it. You know, Brewdog did the same thing as well with their beer and Aldi at the time. This, you know, as an industry, I think actually what could have happened there, you know, we started something. We kind of poked the bear a little bit. Bear kind of growled back at us a little bit, but what, you know, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more action from the bear. And again, I think that could only help the industry. I think because what we're doing,
personality sort of,
we're getting people talking about it who aren't into the fitness industry. We're people are, you know, marketing companies. It was all over LinkedIn, and actually they're seeing great marketing coming from the gym industry, which I think is important as an industry to kind of make sure that people are seeing what's going on in the gym industry. So I think that sort of stuff, brands can come together and have a little bit of fun, and I think that can only help all the industry, really.
True, people getting inspired by gym industry marketing as opposed to us looking outside.
Exactly. Exactly. I love for brands to be looking at the gym industry. They're leading the way in marketing. That's my vision, my goal. I want people from the hospitality world copying us. And for me, that's success. If people can kind of look at what Gymbox are doing, all right, how do I take Gymbox and do that in food and beverage or in the entertainment world, then we're doing something right.
For sure. Because ultimately you're making something that people don't want to do fun.
Exactly.
So you mentioned using agencies for creative ideas. Would you say that is something that gyms should look at on a small budget, and like allocating some budget for agencies?
Look, every gym is different in terms of budget and what they can spend on that. I think we've been very mindful of the agencies that we've picked, and I use the word agencies. I want to extend that to kind of freelancers, where we bring in maybe somebody for a day, on a day-a-week contract. You know, whether that's a copywriter or a graphic designer or a videographer, because a lot of the ideas actually come internally at Gymbox. So a lot of the ideas come from, we've got some, you know, team members in reception and sales who are creative, and they feed ideas back up to me. We've got ideas that come from our creative team, our CEO. We're not short of ideas. I think you should actually just check internally as a business who has ideas and create that environment. I think then where we need help is through sometimes the execution of those ideas, and that's where we pull in experts, whether that is in paid media, because that's not an area that I can do myself, or whether that's through PR. But you know, my tip for gym owners on that one is, look, you've got a commodity, you've got a great product. You know, what we sometimes do is we look at some agencies, we kind of go for the smaller agencies who might also want to use Gymbox as a platform to get new business or to do some great work. And it's almost a bit of a contra deal. We can sometimes give them discounted or free membership plus a fee. We may not be able to afford them as a 100% fee, so we got, would you be willing to accept, you know, 50% of your normal fee for a project, plus we can do 5 memberships for your team to kind of come down. So there's clever ways you can do it if you don't feel you necessarily have the budget to go and spend with an agency. So my tip is, but you've got to really just make sure it's, do you need the ideas or do you need the execution, and where do you need that help?
That makes sense.
And then go and find those agencies and see. So I think, look, I would encourage people to talk. You know, having a conversation doesn't commit you to spending money. Talk to different agencies, talk to different freelancers. I think LinkedIn is a great way to kind of just open that up and say, you know, I'm looking for help in X. You're gonna get inundated with people looking to help and support you. So it's always worth a conversation.
Nice. And I guess on that PR front, if you've got local PR as members, then that's great again for ongoing.
It is, and I think you've got to always remember that all your members are they're working somewhere. So whether they are in, you know, the PR world or in the agency world or you've probably got people within your four walls who can help you.
Yeah.
So it goes back to the earlier point, talk to your members, constantly go and do classes with them, find out, network.
Yeah.
You've got a great, well, we certainly have a great aesthetic looking gym. You know, we talk about influencers. Influencers approach us because they want to come and film in a cool looking gym.
Yeah.
And then we decide whether or not they're the right influencer for us. So actually, you create the stickiness factor where people come to you, and that does help.
You've also done some brilliant collaborations as a brand. Can you talk us through some of the best examples of those?
Yeah, you know, collaborations are a great way of kind of extending your brand to a different audience. So I think how I look to approach collabs is, one, the brand's got to complement us. It's got to have the same kind of DNA as a business. And B, can it then open us up to a different audience that may not be, you know, following us on Instagram, and how do we get into, you know, hospitality brands or whatever it might be. So I look at those two factors. You know, the one I'm really proud of, the one we've done quite recently, is the what I dubbed the world's first ever 4-brand collaboration, which was something we did with Surreal Cereal, Cheese Geek, and Newman. And the whole piece was, and Newman is an erectile dysfunction brand. So the whole idea on this one was the Daft Punk song, better, stronger, faster, harder. And each brand then related back to one of them. So erectile dysfunction was harder, Gymbox being stronger, Surreal was breath faster, and then Cheese Geek was a bit more of a one like feta for better. And again, cost absolutely zero. We didn't spend a penny on that. We mocked up a couple of, on Photoshop, a couple of adverts onto a tube. So we didn't actually buy the media.
Oh, really?
We just mocked it up. And actually, look, the idea kind of came about by, there was a Daft Punk line that we were going to use for one of our campaign lines. It didn't quite work. I really admire Surreal as a brand. They've been doing a lot of interesting stuff recently. So I approached them just again on LinkedIn, just reached out to this guy, do you want to work together? Do you want to come up with some ideas? Collaboratively, we came up with this idea, reached out then to, when we had the Daft Punk idea, we needed somebody who could give us harder.
Yeah.
And so we reached out, and it cost nothing. We mocked it up, and then again, it was a bit of a slog. What you do is, you know, you're pushing it out to people you know on LinkedIn, people you can share it. So you write a bit of a press release, and then it's just slogging it. It's just pushing it out. We had about 3 million views on it across different social channels. It was shared on so many different platforms, from LinkedIn, Instagram. We're in trade press, and again, it cost absolutely zero. And I got a load of free samples of cereal and erectile dysfunction pills, which, yeah, you know, it's good to have some samples, right? That was an interesting night in. So look, we do those kind of big partnerships. We look to do, you know, a couple of them a year. We've worked with people like Gymshark in the past. We've worked with Tiny Rebel for our kind of anti-dry January campaign and beer. But on a smaller level, we look at, you know, other brand partnerships. So Crosstown Donuts is a great brand, you know, huge following, over 100,000 on Instagram. So we partner up on social where, you know, we both post a particular piece of content. You know, we get some of the donuts into the gym, we take some photographs, and then it can be, you know, win a case of donuts and a day pass at Gymbox. Just follow, tag your mate. And that helps us just grow our social following, and it works on both. So actually, Crosstown open themselves up to Gymbox customers. We open ourselves up to Crosstown customers, and you know, we see, you know, we do a couple of them a year with brands that we again think suit our brand, and that seems to work really well from a kind of small micro brand collaboration point of view.
Brilliant. And a lot of people talk about community, and it's become a bit of a buzzword, really. But you guys genuinely do community really well. Can you talk me through how you bring that to life?
Yeah, so look, community is what we're all about. As I say, where anything goes, and the whole premise at the beginning was come to Gymbox, train how you want, you know, be who you want to be. That's evolved over the years to, you know, we're not your typical gym in, you know, our retention strategies, you know, but what we do is we do member parties. We do 2 big member parties a year. We do Gymbox holidays. You go to Scandinavian fjords. We do, you know, we're in the Pride March annually. We've got a big kind of community. We've done late night Ramadan classes for our members who can train at certain times of the day. And I think a kind of combination of doing all these kind of events, you know, again, it's such a wide community in Gymbox. People feel supported. They want, as I say, working out should be as fun as going out. But we're not just about our four walls. Like, we're about, like, get out there, let's bring everyone together, have a big party. So this year is our 28-year anniversary. We're going to have a huge rave in London in September. You'll have 1,000 people there. And I think there's an element of, you know, those people you see in the gym every day, well, you might know them, you may not. You come to a big party. And I think that goes a long way for our kind of community to feel that we know what they want and we get them.
Yeah.
And actually they want to kind of be with people that are like them in the gym, outside the gym.
What would be the one thing you'd change about the fitness industry?
You know what, the fitness industry is smashing it right now. There's a lot of good things happening. I would say the kind of gender equality gap within fitness is something that needs addressing.
Yeah.
I see quite a lot, particularly around the role of social media and women and the intimidation they sometimes feel both within coming to gyms, how they're portrayed on social. And I think the industry has a lot to do to support women. And again, I don't mean literally. I see some of the boutique brands who'll just put on, you know, spin and yoga, and their target market is women. Women in the fitness industry, we see it. They want to do strength classes. They want to do competitions. They don't want to be treated differently. And I think the fitness industry has a huge part to play in making women feel welcome in the gym, and not stereotyping them into one particular type of fitness. It isn't all about reformer Pilates and spin. Actually, there's a lot more that women would feel they want to do and to be equal to kind of men in the industry.
Final question for you. Why should a fitness professional come to PerformX Live?
I must admit, when I go to PerformX Live, it's, you know, the best of the best are there from my view. You've got a lot of creative minds. It's a great networking opportunity, but with real value, unlike some other events I've been to where I kind of sometimes struggle to have the right people in the room. It does feel that everyone who you need to be there is there, and I think that creates opportunities. It creates conversations that you may not be able to have elsewhere. And I think reality is people are busy, and actually having everybody in one space for 2 days is a massive opportunity to kind of help kind of learn and drive your business going forward. So it's a kind of must visit event for me.
Brilliant. Legend. Thanks
Cheers,
a lot for coming
mate.
on.
Yeah.